Hello, everybody, and welcome to Max Spoilers from MinnMax. MinnMax is a place about games, friends getting better. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Ross, officially the Star Wars Guy Fund.
Never happier than when I'm talking about Star Wars.
Oh, look, you put up a little C-3PO and R2-D2 poster behind you?
Yeah, it's a record. The story of Star Wars.
That's right. That's what we're here to talk about today, is the story of Star Wars, officially. Also joined by Brian Vore.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome. Hang on, we'll let him say hello back. Yep, they're all saying hello, Brian. You're being
wonderful.
overwhelmed with love. This is a big spoiler cast discussion all about Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney+. If you have not watched that, please get out of here. We don't want you here. There's going to be a lot of spoilers in this, so you've officially been warned. Also, if you're watching this and you'd like to unlock the podcast version of all of our Max Spoilers discussions and a whole lot more and help support the format in general, you can go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's, supports at the $5 tier, and you unlock the bonus podcast feed, which is filled, brimming with content, dare I say. All right, so the last episode aired this Wednesday. We've been processing it. Brian Vore has been watching it on his phone like some new age child. Ross has been watching it over and over again on a big screen and making fan art. He's so into it. Is that about right?
Haven't seen my family in 2 days.
All right. I mean, we haven't really talked about this show at all so far. I mean, Ross, I guess big picture, how do you feel about Obi-Wan Kenobi? How did it land?
Big picture, I was maybe a little more skeptical than most going into this, just because, the promise was that Obi-Wan and Darth Vader have this big rematch, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it really feels to me like the idea of Episode 4 is that they haven't seen each other in more than 10 years, more than 9 years, actually. And so, I was like, how are they going to do it? How's it going to happen? But overall, I ended up really liking it way, way more than I expected to. The character stuff really worked for me. And, retcons are kind of a part of life when it comes to Star Wars, going back to Empire Strikes Back. So it's, when it's good stuff, I don't mind the retcons. So I liked it a lot.
Interesting. By the way, people in the chat, they're already jumping in and saying, obviously, that we blew it by not opening this with hello there. And I know everybody else on the internet's smarter than us. I would imagine most spoiler cast discussions are opening with hello there, and you're allowed to turn this one off right now just because we forgot that. That is forever going to be our cross to bear. Brian, what did you think about Obi-Wan Kenobi overall?
I thought I was kind of had some similar reservations. It's like, how do you have this fight? And it's like, definitely has to end with like Episode 7, where like a giant chasm opens in between them and they just can't finish it.
Right.
My big curiosity was, how do you take Obi-Wan off the map in Darth Vader's eyes, and have him just be like, I'm just going to give up on that whole thing instead of making it my main mission until I have his head on a stick or something,
That's a really interesting perspective. And I mean, did the show's approach work for you there, where it's just basically Palpatine being like, I'm your master. Oh, right, master. That was kind of it? Is that enough for you?
Well, I know we're kind of jumping to the end, but
yeah.
I did like, because I thought when Obi-Wan was in the pit and Vader was just raining down rocks and dirt on top of him to like
Right.
bury him, I was like, oh, okay, so this is how it goes. Vader's like, well, good enough. Buried him in tons of rubble.
Right,
And he's probably dead forever. And I don't have to worry about him ever again. I thought it was a good fake out. He kind of busts out, and then it's more. I really like. You get to have Ian McDiarmid come back and do some awesome stuff. Can't deny that.
Awesome
Whenever he
stuff.
wants to be on screen or whenever we can use him, I love to see it. But I really like that the thing that's stopping him was like, oh, Vader, perhaps your loyalty to your old master is really what's holding you back from greatness.
Right.
Maybe you should just, let this guy go. Like, who needs him? You don't want no scrubs, Vader,
Yeah, Brian, do you remember we after the first episode of the show, I guess the first 2, we were texting about it, and you said this concern to me, and I was like, yeah, maybe he thinks he's dead, or maybe the Emperor cracks the whip on him, and that's totally what happened.
Yeah, there it is.
He's like, you don't want performance review, Darth, you?
You're breaking up, but I'm sure it was a great line. What'd you say, Ross?
Oh, he's like, you don't want a bad performance review, do you, Darth
Yeah,
Vader?
exactly.
Yeah.
I'll promote one of those inquisitors to your spot in a heartbeat, dude. That weird guy. He's just begging for the job. I was really worried. Overall, I enjoyed it. It didn't exactly blow me away. It didn't hit me as emotionally as I was hoping it would, but I think that's the case of a lot of the Star Wars TV shows, is like conceptually I'm down with it, but then my heart really isn't moved in any direction, which is odd. But I'm just probably dead inside. But the thing that was driving me nuts the entire series was the Leia thing. Like, it was so awesome for them to surprise everybody early on, like with the first trailers showing young Luke and stuff. And like, did Luke even have a line of dialogue in this show? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I think he had one when they were in the shop looking for parts at the end of episode 6. But yeah, otherwise he didn't say much of anything, and it was a big twist. Which, you know, I was like, how are they going to handle this? Is it going to be something where like a fly by night thing where she never knows who Obi-Wan is and never knows his name? But like by the end of it, they're like best friends basically.
Yeah, I was really worried about it. I'm like, okay, well, I think it'll be all right with the canon and the fact that, you know, in Leia's message, it seems like she doesn't know Obi-Wan. I think that'll still work out okay if they keep calling him Ben. And for like several episodes, they were calling him Ben. So it's like, okay, I guess that would work out if she just knows that there was this Jedi named Ben that saved her at some point. But then the third sister, I think, is the first one to like talk about like Obi-Wan Kenobi can't come and save you or something too late. And it's like, oh, great. Now that theory is out the window. But it's maybe too convenient. But I thought like wrapping it up with that angle of like, hey, we need to keep this on the down low. Basically, if you ever send me a message in the future, wink, wink, pretend like you don't know me. And it's like, okay, sure. But, you know, I went back and I watched then like that original message from A New Hope. And it's like, it's kind of charming. It's kind of cool to think that she's playing this extra layer of deception in that message than we originally thought, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Because she's like, you know, of course you knew my father through the Clone Wars. That's the only connection we have. I guess
right.
It's kind of fun to twist it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in case R2 got captured or something. I was kind of thinking that when she's like, will I ever see you again? Maybe he'd just be like, yes, but you have to send a very formal message.
Be cool.
You're really going to have to call ahead if you want to stop by. It's kind of one of my rules.
Young Luke, just to jump right into the kids and the whole twins and all that stuff, that I was stunned by that sequence where he's being chased by the third sister, but they're like, no, it's a Tusken Raider raid. It's a Tusken Raider raid. That was traumatizing. The fact that they're like raiding his house, he never quite turns around to see who it is, and obviously he falls off the cliffside, but that could have just been the rock falling and not the force, which it seemed like she used to like make the rock fall and stuff. But I was just thinking about it for like A New Hope. Like Luke should have been absolutely terrified of Tusken Raiders. Even the mention of Tusken Raiders should have been like, Jesus, he should have PTSD, I think, from just the intensity of his house being attacked and his parents being attacked from this Raider raid. But instead it's just like, sand people, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it was strange to see that. And then also when Obi-Wan kind of approaches the camp towards the end, he's just like, I'm just fiddling with this crap over here. And he's not just like, I'm afraid of every stranger that comes by now.
Yes.
Because I just was kidnapped and knocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, life on the frontier, I guess, right? The Tusken Raiders probably come at him every couple of weeks.
I guess so. That's just the way it goes, yeah. I know that we're in a new level of Star Wars because I saw multiple people on the Reddit complaining that we weren't given enough Aunt Beru. I was like, all right, if that's the level of like satisfaction Star Wars fans need, we are in dangerous waters. Like, the show is great, but they robbed Aunt Beru of her shining star. It's like, what?
We got to see her do a like as a martial arts fan, I know a palm strike when I see one. So that's she just nailed the third sister with that. What more could you want?
That is true. Yeah, she did all right there, I guess. Yeah, it's weird that I give them like a fight action scene, but sure. Okay, how much do you think this show was not redeemed? It seemed like people were enjoying it fine, and then it seemed like the final episode took things up a notch. Is that your perception as well? Is like it landed it well, so therefore now the show is going to go down as 2 thumbs up from Star Wars fans?
Yeah, it started really strong and kind of dipped in the middle, episodes 4 and 5 until the end of episode 5. And then the final episode for me, knocked it out of the park at least, and I think a lot of people liked it too. So I think that goes a long way. And I'm curious, it really felt like a movie that got expanded into a show, right? Because I think this whole thing started as a movie.
Oh, really?
And then because it's been in the works since 2017 or something like that, and it got a big rewrite when they obviously decided, oh, Disney Plus is our big outlet for Star Wars stuff now. That's where this will go. So I think that is when they brought the Darth Vader / Hayden Christensen element into it.
Oh, okay.
If what I've read is correct. So I really hope there's like a behind the scenes like making of. We don't get super in-depth stuff these days, but I would love to know the history of the project and like how that transition went from movie to show and what was that and how that affected everything.
And then like even the show itself, once it became a show, was kind of rebooted, and Deborah Chow was brought in, who directed a bunch of Mandalorians and stuff. And I know that they kind of threw out a lot of the scripts or reworked a lot of the scripts. So yeah, I'd love to know just the history of how that all came together. And it's interesting. I mean, I guess would have thought that if it was a movie, it would have focused more on the Anakin versus Obi-Wan angle and less on the kind of third sister Inquisitor stuff, which was like, that was okay. I mean, it's cool to see them talk about the younglings and like the fact that so much of the series focused just on the trauma of one of the younglings, and like showing that murder again is pretty amazing for them to lean into like the darkest thing that's ever happened in Star Wars. Planets blew up, I guess, but whatever. Like slicing up kids, that's a whole nother level.
Yeah, I noticed that they added a content warning as the show went on. It was like, yeah, this happened right after some world events, so it's a little tricky. I know there's another popular show that I guess I won't spoil the intro, but another popular show that recently came back had a content warning as well for something similar like this. So it's unfortunate because people have been making these shows for years and years, and it's like there's really no good time to release a show that features school death and destruction.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Exactly. So what did you guys think of the Inquisitors in live action? Ben, I assume you haven't watched Star Wars Rebels at all.
I watched
I
watched the first season of Rebels. So the Inquisitors, I'm not crazy about them. What do you think about the theory? It's always like, Sith, they're always two and all that stuff. But I heard some Star Wars fans be like, well, that's just what Yoda's perception of it is. But that's maybe not actually the case, because it bothers me, I guess, just that idea that like, I don't know, there's a bunch of Sith, there's a bunch of red lightsabers everywhere, everybody's got the Force, it's all over the place. There's, the third sister is 1,000 times more powerful than anything Luke has ever done. So like, why is Luke that important? But that's a bigger picture problem, I guess. So yeah, it's just weird to have so many red lightsabers and Sith-like people around. But what do you think about that theory, or that idea that the rule of two is kind of nonsense?
They're not Siths, so they're just like they're flunkies, sort of. So the Sith are just Emperor and Darth Vader, and you can see like the difference when, like one of my favorite scenes of the show, when third sister finally tries to get her revenge on Vader, and he just wipes the floor with her.
Right, right.
That's the difference between the Sith and their like disposable flunkies, dark side goons, basically. So it's. I think there's still that distinction there. I get the more general idea of like the more red lightsabers you have running around, the less special it is, sort of. But yeah, it's still in Rebels and in other places it's good, or at least I've enjoyed having the opportunity for lightsaber action, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you know what they did a lot in this show? And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've done it in live action before, but like using the Force to block a lightsaber. It was a lot of Vader doing that. Like, I'm coming at you with a lightsaber, then like, whoosh, and I assume that's something from the animated series, but I don't think I've seen it in live action before.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. It's definitely happened, probably a lot in the Clone Wars series too. But yeah, live action, I don't think I've seen that.
It's really wild. Like when it got to the point where Obi-Wan and Darth Vader were having the big fight at the end, it's like, oh, no one's blocking lightsabers. Eventually they got to that point where they did it a little bit, but it seems like that should be your number one move, is just pushing the person around and blocking every lightsaber shot. But the Force is weird.
Speaking of number one moves, somebody finally like went after that ventilator power box in Vader's chest.
Yeah, that was maybe my favorite thing of the show was, first of all, the voice work. Like James Earl Jones is up there. And so I heard somewhere that they're using kind of the Luke level AI of like creating that synthetic voice, and it sounds so good. He sounds so much younger than he did in Rogue One. But then some of my favorite stuff was then in that final fight with his voice and, you know, helmet is all destroyed and stuff, and like just having his voice like filter between James Earl Jones to Hayden Christensen and back again, like that mid-level range. That was some of the coolest stuff I've seen in a long time for Star Wars.
That was
so
great.
Good. Loved it.
And that brings up too for me, like you kind of have to have that busted helmet moment to be able to have Vader be performed by Hayden Christensen, because that's one of my things with the series is like, how much is Hayden Christensen in that suit outside of that busted helmet scene? I feel like you have to have like, I think David Prowse, I read online, he was like 6'7". Hayden Christensen's about 6 feet. So, which I have no problem with because, you know, he's got robotic legs and stuff, so he could add some height there. He could do some things. But yeah, I guess as far as having doubles, there's really, you might as well have the big doubles kind of do a lot of that Vader performance, and then he can do like the hallucinations and the flashback. You know, I'm glad he got that flashback lightsaber battle with Obi-Wan, and we get to kind of see another layer to their relationship. And then kind of the half helmet was great because that was able to point to what Obi-Wan kind of intimates to Luke when they first meet. Like, what happened to my father? And it's like, oh, a man named Darth Vader killed your father. You know, like, he basically says the line and like lays it up on the platter. So like you see Obi-Wan be able to kind of let go of he's like, well, there's obviously no Anakin left in there. I'm not going to try to like keep helping this guy. He's just like a totally different person now. And it was, I guess, kind of cool to see that subtle thing tied together.
Yes, and there's that line in Return of the Jedi where Luke is trying to be like, "Now come with me, Dad," and Vader's like, "Obi-Wan once thought as you did," and that never happened in Episode 3. So this kind of plugs that hole a little bit as well.
That's interesting. Did he try and bring him back to the light much though?
He was like, I'm really sorry about it. You know, like he was like that, you know, it was kind of an olive branch almost after he'd already beaten him, of course, and chopped half his helmet off. But it was enough, I think, to check that box for me. But yeah.
Help me wrap my mind around this one. I'm struggling with it a little bit, but you know, the big confusing line in A New Hope was when he says, last time we met, you were the master and I was the learner. What does he say? But what is that line where he's like, I'm the master now?
Now I am the master, yeah.
Thank you.
And he's like, only the master of evil, Darth.
Well, your Alec Guinness is spot on. But then people are saying like, oh, okay, well, they're trying to justify that here, where in that fight, the fact that Darth Vader is calling Obi-Wan master still, like he calls him master at a certain point, and it's like, okay, is that just to cement that idea where he says, now I am the master? Now it's more of just that flip to try and add some more context for why he would say last time we met when that technically wasn't true.
Yeah, I think it's also maybe connected to that Emperor scene at the end where he's like, oh, maybe are you still attached to your old master? And if Vader's like, oh, well, yeah, I was calling him master, but, you know, next time I'll be the master, and then it won't be a big deal if I'm angry at him, blah, blah, blah. Right,
and they really make it clear that, like, okay, Obi-Wan has to call him Darth Vader at the end of that fight just to make it clear for, like, why he's so comfortable being like, hello, Darth. Nice to see you, Darth. Just throwing the word Darth around so casually in A New Hope.
Yes, and I just, overall, I thought Darth Vader was handled, like, 100% perfectly in this show. Like, I think that can be a tricky thing for people to get, but like the combination of the Anakin stuff and like he's this big, scary, intimidating figure who can, you know, kick ass in a fight or whatever, but he's ultimately like a pitiful kind of person who like made the bad decision and like doesn't have the courage to go back on it and blames everybody else for his own problems, that sort of thing. It was just like it just felt perfect to me with both the prequels and the original trilogy and his other appearances and stuff, and it just nailed it. And yeah, like you said, James Earl Jones' voice, which I think was the re-speecher thing, totally perfect in this. It was awesome.
Now they'll just have James Earl Jones forever. Because I gotta wonder, I mean, do you think James Earl Jones even recorded anything for this?
I doubt it. I bet they were like, "Hey, we'll give you the credit, and if you're cool with it," and he was probably like, "Yeah, please leave me alone."
Yeah, because good
yeah,
lord.
Also, sign away your voice for all time.
Sure, whatever it takes, man. Yeah, I mean, I saw Coming to America, and yeah, he was getting up there in that film, and that was a couple of years ago now, so I cannot imagine. The other things that I think were kind of cute in the way it ties everything together is, I do think the show, because it was always weird to me that Leia had never met Obi-Wan, and then she named her kid Ben. And I feel like now it's a nice new layer. They're like, okay, now it's an extra sweet touch that she actually called Kylo Ben, of all things.
Yeah.
See, yeah, going into this, I just thought, like, just make it make sense to me, and I'm here. Like, I want to see something set in this era. I want to see these characters do these things. And along the way, I just was like feeling my grump level rising on certain items, but I'm like, okay, just let's get to the last episode, and then, just make it make sense to me. That's all I need, and I think they pulled it off in a lot of ways. Because one of the best things about the show too is we see episode 3 Obi-Wan, and then it jumps all the way to episode 4 Obi-Wan, and he's just like kind of a delightful old codger by that point after going through like that big trauma. I like that at the start of this show, he's very much like pretty much disavowed the Force, very depressed and alone, and he kind of gets pulled back into some adventuring, realizes the necessity of the Force when used for good, and by the end, Qui-Gon's like, look, dude, you're in a good place now. I'm ready to talk to you. Let's go have some fun. You and me, ghost buddies.
We'll build a house together.
Yeah, we'll build a house. I'll teach you some delightful tricks like a crate dragon roar, and he's in a good headspace when he finally meets up with Luke again.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, that's really what made the show work for me too. Is that like they go out of their way to. There's so many times in the first couple episodes of Obi-Wan not even doing simple things to help people. There's that big scene where he doesn't help the Jedi on the run, and that's one thing, but it's like he doesn't even stand up to his boss at the desert fish carve station when he's like doing wage theft to his coworker. He's just like, can't do anything about it. And like by the end, he is inspiring all those people on the ship. He's like going out of his way to assist them, and he's like learning to trust them again. Like that whole episode, in the third episode where they land on the planet, it's him and Leia, and they're supposed to meet up at that one point.
Yeah,
like they were given that coordinate or whatever to meet up with their contact, and he's like gets there, and it's like 2 seconds. He's like, oh, this isn't gonna work, and they go off on their own, and it goes terribly. And later the path contact is like, hey, where were you? I showed up at that spot and you weren't there. And so it's like they do all these things. He can't trust people, and then at the end he's like, ooh, Haja, that's Kumail's character, I trust you to take care of this and do this thing. And it was just, I don't know, it just really, really worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't talked about the biggie, the big reveal in that final episode, but yeah, Ross, what'd you think when you saw old Qui-Gon come back?
Hey, I think that was the number one thing that everyone was predicting going into this, other than that, Vader and Obi-Wan would fight each other.
Yeah.
But Qui-Gon appearance, and, they saved it for the last scene. I was totally fine with that. Liam Neeson, delivered the 2 lines perfectly or whatever. He's like, took you long enough. Sheesh.
Right.
And it was... Yeah, it was, I don't know, it's perfect Qui-Gon for me. I like that character a lot, even though he has not had a ton of screen time. And yeah, it was really fun. Did that land for you guys in any way?
I was kind of, the fact that they were teasing it so much kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Of like in the first episode, where he's like, oh, I keep trying to reach out to you, Master Qui-Gon, and you're not there. It's like, okay. So the cynic in me is like, oh boy, all right, here we go. It's definitely going to end this way. So it would have been more fun, I guess, if it was a little bit out of the blue. But I don't know. Yeah, Brian, how did it land for you?
I think it was a good payoff for episode 3 when Yoda's like,
yeah,
teach you I will the ways of Force ghosts. You know, like, it's like, okay, you have to have that payoff, right? So it's a long time payoff for that.
So what did Yoda say? He's going to teach him how to become a Force ghost or to interact with Force ghosts?
He said, training I have for you, your old master Qui-Gon has found a way to, retain his consciousness or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So going into this, you're left thinking that Obi-Wan has been trying to do this for 10 years, just completely failing. And that's why he's so depressed.
He wasn't ready to see it. Yeah. There's that weird quote from, I don't know, a couple months ago where somebody asked Liam Neeson if he's going to be in this show. And he said like, I'm into movies. I'm not into TV shows. And it's like, okay, well, I guess good job, Liam Neeson, for lying about that apparently, or just he wishes it was a movie or whatever. But it does.
Yeah. And that's why he only appeared on like Clone Wars like 3 times too, because he hates TV shows.
Oh, I didn't know that he was in that. Wait, was it like flashbacks in Clone Wars, or how'd they handle that?
There's one like Force vision of him that may or not be the ghost, and then there's at least one other time where Yoda goes off to Dagobah to like on a vision quest, and he actually talks to Ghost Qui-Gon there.
Oh, okay, cool. By the way, fun fact I learned, separate from Star Wars, but did you know that Dagobah is like a Buddhist shrine? It's a name for a Buddhist shrine where like a Buddhist monk lives.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I did not know that. I'd have to imagine it was an homage naming it that.
That's, by the way, Ben, that is a huge thing for Ross not to know some kind of Star Wars trivia.
Yes, I did it. Impressed him.
You are the Star Wars guy now.
I am the master. I have the high ground. No, the Liam Neeson thing, it felt like it was so pretty much just like a little nothing at the end. It felt like something like maybe they weren't sure if they were going to get Liam Neeson. So it's like, we can include it if we get him. If not, no big deal. If we get him, we can go back and have some insert shots of, Obi-Wan hoping that he'll appear and whatnot. But it felt kind of like a nothing. He didn't really have a lot to say other than, come on, we've got a lot to do. Woohoo!
Yeah, I kind of thought that maybe it would be like at a crucial moment he would show up and give some advice, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah,
whereas
something a little more crucial.
It ended up being his reward for coming back into balance with himself, etc.
Right. People in the chat, Arseny Munn is talking about that Vader fight again and saying that, okay, first of all, it's cool that where Obi-Wan slices in the helmet. I don't know if you know this dumb fact, but they have like the scar then in Return of the Jedi, and it's in that same spot.
That's crazy.
Yeah, which is very cool.
That's a great touch.
But then Arseny's also bringing up that idea of like, when Obi-Wan sliced Vader's back, that explains why Darth Vader's kind of clumsy in the way he fights in the original trilogy, is maybe this fight did so much damage to him that after this point, he's not exactly going to be jumping around the world.
Yeah, that's all great points.
Okay, look, there's a lot to enjoy about this show. It was a pleasure to watch by and large. But it started out on the rough footing of like that chase scene with those goons trying to get Leia. I feel like this is in the world of Star Wars things to make fun of. I feel like in the TV world, it was, what was it in Book of Boba Fett? Like those teen kids on those bikes, like that chase through Tatooine. It's like, okay, that was pretty dopey. And I feel like this is now the new dopey modern age Star Wars thing to make fun of, is like, running through the woods trying to get Leia, and there's like a branch in their way, and they're like, they can't get around it. It felt like an episode of like Xena or something.
Yeah.
This is like that.
It felt like it was out of the Ewoks TV movies.
Yes. Yeah.
But for me, as any parent can tell you, if you have to chase after a child, you can catch up to them like that. It's very, very quick. and they don't like swing branches to like hit you in the face and knock you off their path. They don't do tactical slides like Leia did here, even though I have a tactical slide. Went on, if it was 60 seconds, it went on 58 seconds too long.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But I don't know about that, Ross, because have 10-year-olds yet, so they could have a new gear of speed that we're just not even prepared for.
It's true.
Fair
Just
enough,
you wait. But then, like, it also made me laugh later on when they have. Help me out, Ross. This is. You can become the master again. What's the name of the big Empire ship at the end? I mean, just like the first shot you see in Star
Death
Wars.
Star?
No, no, not the Death Star, but the triangle oneys. Imperial ships.
the Star Destroyers?
Star Destroyers. Thank you. Oof. Here's
the
my nerd
Devastator
card.
is the name of Darth Vader's Star
Okay,
Destroyer.
there we go. So when the Devastator is trying to shoot down the little Obi-Wan escape pod, and it's like this, it felt again like a lifetime just seeing the ship like just kind of going like this back and forth. It's like, well, there's nothing the Devastator can do. It cannot hit one ship. It's like there's no homing technology in any way. It's just we just have to cruise behind this thing and slowly blast it. Like that stuff was bizarre.
Yeah, it's all out of TIE fighters too, apparently. You can't
Oh,
watch
of
any
course.
of those after it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the weird thing for me at the start of the 6th episode is that you have the chase happen, and then there's all these like low-key conversations going on the ship.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we're trying to get it fixed, and yeah, it's kind of goes slow going, and they're like, well, I don't know. Everybody should be like, ah!
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. But I guess you know how ships work in the Star Wars universe, and you know that it's not a threat to have the scariest ship possible right behind you at all times.
Yeah, for all of Episode 9's faults, I think they had an appropriate level of panic when their ship was having issues.
Yeah.
That big cruiser.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I love that they finally played the Imperial March at the end. The fact that they saved that was very cool. Also playing Leia's theme during, I think, the most emotional scene when Obi-Wan was
Yes.
walking through like her parents' traits and stuff. That got you, Ross?
Oh my god, it really got me. Yeah, Natalie Holt killed it. I thought she did a great job the whole show, but especially the final episode, and especially those parts that you're mentioning. So, I hope she gets another Star Wars show or a movie somewhere down the line because she's fantastic. She did the Loki score as well, which is my favorite Marvel score probably. So.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think like even early on when Obi-Wan talked about Padme a bit, like that got me emotionally a little bit more than I was expecting. It's like I think, okay, that's kind of sweet. I think this show was the best written Star Wars show yet, but I still think it falls into this problem where I just feel like all the Star Wars shows, the scripts are kind of a little bit blah. I don't think there's really some iconic lines that are going to stand the test of time out of the Star Wars shows yet. Prove me wrong, but like outside of this is the way, it's like I just feel like everything's just kind of it's perfunctory. It's moving the plot along enough, but there's not really like great dialogue or jokes. And even including, it was standing out to me that in the last 2 episodes of this show, Andrew Stanton from Pixar, screenwriter for Toy Story, director of Finding Nemo, a bunch of films over there, that he actually wrote or co-wrote these last 2 episodes, which is cool to see him dipping his toe in the Star Wars universe with like huge things.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I think with Mandalorian it's tricky because the main character is such a gruff dude.
Yeah.
And then Baby Yoda doesn't speak English.
Right.
But yeah, I guess Boba Fett. It's
just kind of
I don't know.
zero.
It's tricky, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
there's so many iconic lines in the movies. It's tough to compete with that.
I just want some good jokes or some fun banter. Just really, I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of lacking overall on that front.
Yeah,
so
I kind of wonder
are you a big Solo guy, Ben?
I do like Solo.
That's got a lot of jokes and banter.
It does. I need to watch it again. I only saw it in the theater, but I remember liking it more than Rogue One. And I know it's like the cool thing now to dunk on Solo, but like I thought that movie was fun. I liked it a lot.
I was not super hot on it when it first came out, but I've rewatched it probably 2-3 times since, and I like it more each time. So if you started out liking it, maybe you will love it at this point.
I do love the soundtrack. That soundtrack is so wild. I've listened to that one a lot.
Yep.
Let's see. Other big beats, Ross, that we haven't hit?
Well, I just the reference with the Fortress Inquisitorius.
Yeah.
Where Ben, did you play that game? Did you play?
I didn't finish it, but I heard that the idea of penetrating the base from underwater and then crashing the windows happens also in Fallen Order.
Yes, it does, and
so weird.
it's great there too. But what's funny is that in Fallen Order, Cal, the character, just swims right in with no problems. In Obi-Wan does need the person on the inside to be like hacking in and shutting down some locks, I guess. So,
Yeah.
so they slightly beefed up the security after the last time Jedi swam into the underwater garage.
That's cool.
Yeah, it just the Empire can't resist having a base in a highly dangerous area, like a lava field or
Right.
The Death Star with a huge glaring weakness. So they just can't help being in exotic yet dangerous locations that always manage to lead to their total destruction.
Yeah.
I will say, I think it is part of the general idea that there's a lot of low-level incompetence in the Empire.
Right.
And I think that goes a long way to explaining away some of this stuff. The other thing that I liked about this show was that, Obi-Wan's survival many times is tied to Darth Vader's like elaborate plans for revenge, which I think is totally true to the character and helps explain away like, oh, could he really escape from this situation?
Wait, how so? What do you mean?
Like, okay, so Darth Vader is like, finally sees Obi-Wan. He's like, all right, I'm gonna haunt this guy for a little bit. I'm gonna jump out of the darkness at him. I'm gonna scare him a bunch, and then I'm going to definitely gotta burn him. He's got to burn.
Oh, that is fun.
So
yeah.
Yeah, and there was actually like a Darth Vader comic where he had like this fantasy of burning Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, that's good.
I'm sure that the show probably did not like take notes on that, but it was a nice, there's a nice canon coincidence there. But so like so he's like burning Obi-Wan, and then the flames erupt or whatever, and they get away. Like Darth Vader could have maybe like jumped over those flames and got him, but I think he was kind of like, well, the time will come again where I'll move on to phase 2 of my revenge, whatever that would be.
Right.
Yeah.
I was surprised, how much mercy Darth Vader had at moments. Especially, there's a weird beat too where Obi-Wan was talking to the third sister in the end, and he's like, you showed mercy, which was the right thing to do. You didn't kill that child. Where it's like, what about you showing mercy to Anakin, Obi-Wan? Like the entire show is you building up to be like, I need to kill this guy. But I thought it was interesting that like Darth Vader left the third sister alive. That seems like an odd choice.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing where too, it's like, okay, does he have a secret plan for this?
Right.
Because before, it seems like the Grand Inquisitor that we knew and loved from the animated show and other properties seemed like he was dispatched out of hand pretty quickly, and that ended up being one part of Darth Vader's plan and helped keep the canon intact. But yeah, you just see her just kind of damaged significantly, but he's just like totally fine leaving her there. I don't know, does he just consider her like, even if she lives, she's such not a threat to me because I can predict her every move?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like the ultimate disrespect. You're not even worth my time to kill. Like he gave her like a fair shot to actually try to beat him, and she couldn't get anywhere close even when he wasn't using a lightsaber. And so he's like, you're nothing to me. And I love Grand Inquisitor coming back like a high school bully and being like, we'll leave you in the gutter, huh?
Right. Yeah, it seems like a bold move and a sensitive timeline or kind of era in Star Wars to like leave another powerful Force user alive. But, if they make a second season, I'd imagine it's going to explore her journey a lot more, and they probably want somebody else to be able to pop in for some cool Force tricks. And just to watch her, do some parkour on roofs for a little bit longer. All of her cool moves, I guess. Do you think there's going to be a second season if you had to predict it right now, Ross?
If I had not seen like the strong rumors that there would be, I would say no, because I thought this ended pretty definitively in a way that you could say this was the end of the show. And, maybe Third Sister will appear somewhere else in the future, but that's not an Obi-Wan show.
Right.
But I think there have been some pretty strong rumors from credible sources that say that they are ramping up to do a season 2.
Interesting.
And apparently this has been the most watched show in the history of Disney Plus. So on the business side, I think there's reasons to do it too.
Man, yeah, I wonder.
Wow, I've stayed away from a lot of that news since I had only recently fully completed the show. So that's interesting to hear that it's doing so well. And if it is, you've already got Ewan McGregor on board as like an executive producer, and you've already signed all the hard contracts with a lot of the big marquee stars. So
Yeah.
just
Plus,
I'm sure it's a multi-property, multi-year deal just in case they always kind of handle that. So I'd certainly love to see more, but I wonder what kind of stuff you can do to keep pulling Obi-Wan off the planet. But I think they landed it here. I just wonder what you do in season 2.
I mean,
yeah, I'm in the same boat there. There was a thing at the Star Wars Celebration, the big convention Lucasfilm convention they have. They showed like the first 2 episodes of that there, and then Ewan McGregor came out and he's like, "Hey, hope you like those episodes, guys, and I hope you like episodes 4 and 5, 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6, and 7, 8, and 9, and whatever." So he kind of like threw out there like, "Hey, maybe this is a possibility." But yeah, in terms of the character, I think it ended with a place where Obi-Wan is like, I don't have to like sit on the sand dune all day and look at Luke through my binoculars. So like, I think that almost sets him up to be able to go out and help other people, other places.
Yeah, I am shocked that they didn't put Jar Jar in this. And I would imagine, like, I think that is the area you go, is second season. It's Qui-Gon's relationship, Obi-Wan's relationship, and it's some adventure with Jar Jar. I feel like the world is ready for a redemption. I'm serious. Don't you think people would embrace that wholeheartedly?
I'm there for it. There was like a scene for Jar Jar in one of the books that takes place after Return of the Jedi, where it's like just an interlude, and Jar Jar is like back on Naboo, and he's like working at an orphanage for war orphans. It was like he's just like making them laugh and stuff, and I was like, that's a nice way to write off Jar Jar. He for the being responsible for voting emergency powers to the Chancellor, which eventually let him become the Emperor. He can't have a totally happy ending probably, but he's doing good work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the same time, can't you blame all the Jedis as well for the entire rise of the Empire? I mean, so there's plenty of blame to go around. You can't throw it all on Jar Jar. I'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know if second season of Obi-Wan's the way to go, but they're definitely building up so many characters and stories that they could tell in this era that I wouldn't be surprised if it is like the next show is just called Darth Vader. Like, why not? It's the biggest card they could play. Everybody would tune in. You could still toy with some of these characters again. So I could see maybe something like that, kind of like, the equivalent of like the connections between Boba Fett and Mandalorian. I could see another sister show popping up in this era that also is kind of bouncing back and forth, and they'll have an episode where it feels just like the 7th episode of Obi-Wan,
Yeah.
And I think Darth Vader 2 is much less of like a friction in your mind. It's like, well, I can imagine all kinds of terrible things Darth Vader could be up to on all kinds of planets, and it wouldn't mess with any canon that I have in my head,
Totally. And like, that the comic series, I forget who wrote it, but it was recommended wholeheartedly. Actually, God, what was it? Somebody on Twitter actually like bought me a digital copy of that because they said it was so good. And it was fun. Just like, I don't know, do you know what I'm talking about, Ross? It was from like maybe 7 years ago, 5 years ago or so, but it was just like this story of Darth Vader just dealing with the bureaucracy of the Empire. And it was strangely compelling just to see him like frustrated with the system.
Yeah. The Kieran Gillen run, I think. Yeah. The Emperor has kind of busted him down the ranks a little bit for the Death Star failure, and he's got to deal with all these Imperial bureaucrats, etc. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
there's fun stuff there. They still make the Vader comics as Magic Triangle. There we go. Plenty of stories to be told. All right. Yeah, I give it overall, I would give it a 7.5, I think. I don't know. I don't know why I have to be so critical about this thing. It was good. There was interesting Star Wars stuff in it. Therefore, 2 thumbs up,
Yeah. One last kind of element I would like to like mention is the thing at the start where Obi-Wan is like, "Hey Owen, I gotta train this kid. I gotta do it. He's got to be ready." And then at the end, he comes and talks to him, and he's like, what he needs is to grow up normal with a family, and stuff. I think it is a really interesting way of having Obi-Wan acknowledge the faults of the Jedi order and bureaucracy from the prequels, where Anakin was a great kid until he became a Jedi, and they took him away from his family, and had him raised by somebody who wasn't ready to do it. And I don't think it's any coincidence that like this story is set at a time where Luke and Leia are the same age that Anakin was in The Phantom Menace, and Obi-Wan kind of seeing Leia especially and being like, oh, this is a great kid who's being raised by great people and is going to turn into a good person. I don't need to like step in with Luke and like take him away from his family and put him through the whole Jedi thing again. We'll get to that when the time comes. So, that was one of I think the subtext of the prequels is that the Jedi organization is doing things in a bad way, and I think it was a nice subtext here for Obi-Wan to move beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I'm just realizing now where they could go with the second season too. Is that where Mace Windu would come back? I mean,
he's been looking for his arm this whole time in the alleys of Coruscant.
I could see it. I mean, it's who knows, but there's all those interviews with Samuel L. Jackson saying that he wants to come back. I'm like, that would be another big pop they could get out of the crowd, I feel like. But all right, Obi-Wan Kenobi, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought about it. What's the next Star Wars thing we got on docket, Ross?
Andor, starting in August.
That trailer
12
ruled.
episodes in this first season. I liked it. It looked so different.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. Like, who knows what the show's actually going to be like, but that trailer was one of the most exciting Star Wars trailers I've seen in a very long time. Like, it felt so different and weird. And like, just starting with the big drum sequence and stuff like this, I have high hopes for Andor.
Yeah. My prediction for that show, so it's 2 12-episode seasons, and that's the end of the show. I think first season is going to be like very low scope and low scale, where it's like Andor on this planet where he's growing up and Empire coming in and ruining everything, and that's how he becomes radical, sort of. And then with Mon Mothma in the mix, I think maybe the second season we're going to get more into like formation of the Alliance and all that stuff. That's where like some of these characters from Obi-Wan that were established, like O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s character and Maya Erskine and all those folks, maybe they can come into play there too. So I'm excited. It could go so many different directions.
Yeah, awesome. All right, there you go, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. Brian, thank you for taking time.
Of course, always a great time.
Ross, thank you for taking time.
Goodbye there.
That's so dumb. All right, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Bye.
Bye.